This is Zonelocked, a dwarf who, in classic WoW, is exploring all of Azeroth, one zone at a time. He's starting in Dun Morogh, and to move to the next zone, he must earn 25 gold pieces. A tall order for a low-level dwarf, and it's only going to get harder, because the gold amount needed to progress to each subsequent zone is going to increase by 25 gold. So in the second zone we'll need 50 gold, then 75, and so on. The rules are simple. We can't join groups, we can't buy off the auction house, and we can't accept trades. The only ways to make gold are from looting, quest rewards, vendoring, and selling on the auction house. We're starting on a completely fresh account, so we have absolutely no starting capital, which means we got straight to questing. I decided to be a dwarf hunter for one very simple reason. There may have been better choices, mage for AoE farming, rogue for pickpocketing, but I love the feeling of being a dwarf hunter. The race and class feel like they were meant to be, and having a pet is going to come in handy in the future, I'm sure. We started our journey in Coldridge Valley, the starter zone for both dwarves and gnomes, where we culled wolves, boars and trogs, defeated an incursion of trolls and delivered some hot tea. During our time here, we did get one item of note, a Trog dagger, as a random drop from a burly rockjaw Trog. According to TSM, this dagger sells for around 1 gold. I'm guessing because of the unique appearance. It's certainly not for the stats because it has the second worst DPS in the entire game. Anyway, I kept it in my bags and held on to it for now. Apart from this one drop, Coldridge Valley didn't really give us much in the way of income. But we did reach level 5, which meant we could explore Dun Morogh proper. I absolutely adore the classic version of Dun Morogh. The large mountains, the dwarven fortifications built into the side of them, the plethora of beasts and caves makes this zone feel coherent and real. You might know by now that I love snowy landscapes, and if you throw in some trees, glacial lakes and mountains, then I'm truly in my element. On the way out of Coldridge, I came upon a group of dwarves at the side of the road doing some mortar tests. One of them was a gunsmith who sold ammo and gun upgrades. I couldn't afford the guns, but I did notice that they sold on the auction house for a pretty penny, so I made a note to return here when I had a bit more coin. I decided to immediately head for Ironforge and see if I could sell this dagger, along with a few other items I picked up along the way. I put it up on the auction house for a modest 90 silver. I picked up both mining and skinning, which completely wiped out my remaining wealth, and then went to Caneros, the main quest hub of the zone, and started on a few of the quests. As I did this, I skinned every beast and collected every bit of copper ore I could find. If TSM was to be believed, these items had a low sale price, especially light leather, which was only selling for around 30 copper. But copper ore was selling for 1 to 2 silver each, and at this point, any amount of income was a bonus. So I quested, gathered, killed and grinded, and before long, we had some mail come in. Unbelievably, the Trog dagger sold straight away, which, along with a few smaller sales, netted us our first gold piece. I decided the best thing to do was to invest this money in being more efficient. So I picked up a gun upgrade, and brought another for later. I also brought some extra guns to try and sell on the auction house. I stocked up on trade goods, brought some 6-slot bags, and learned how to equip 2-handed axes. And with my bags full, headed back to Ironforge. I placed all my new items up for sale and went back to questing. I returned the next day to see if I had any mail waiting for me, and nothing had sold. I literally had a mailbox full of expired auctions, which was not the return on investment I'd hoped for. But undeterred, I reposted them, went back out to Dun Morogh to kill and gather some more. Now let's talk about how we unlock zones. In Classic, there aren't many portals or fast travel opportunities, which makes moving from one zone to the next fairly straightforward. From Dun Morogh, we can only travel on foot, and we can head either west through the mountains to Loch Modan, or hop on the Deep Run tram to Elwyn Forest. You might also be wondering what we'll do with the gold that we must pay to enter the next zone. There's no WoW token in Classic, so I've created a Tollmaster alt. This is an alt who I must send the exact gold amount to in order to progress to the next zone. And once that gold is gone off this character, it's a one-way ride. That means I need to farm another 50 gold in the next zone with no starting capital. I never said this challenge would be easy. Now, as I was killing leper gnomes and beasts in the west of the zone, I got my first green drop, a two-handed axe with a big DPS upgrade and some agility. I did consider posting it on the auction house, but it was only selling for a few silver, so I decided to equip it, and the jump in damage was well worth it. I was ploughing through mobs now, killing them in seconds, and more kills means more loot. I finished up the majority of the quests and headed east to the trog-infested quarries. Up until now, I'd contented myself with copper ore and light leather as my main selling items, but it was going to take me hundreds if not thousands of these items to reach the 25 gold toll. Some trade goods were selling, like weak flux, but not at a rate that was going to make a significant dent. The trogs here though gave us access to humanoid loot tables, which meant more gear and linen cloth. I only spent a short amount of time in this area initially, doing the 2 quests that required killing the trogs, but in that short time I acquired an entire inventory full of sellable items. Lots of cloth, weapons and armour that looked like they might sell for a good markup. Optimistic, I put it all up on the auction house, logged out for the night, and awoke the next morning to see how I'd done. I want to take a moment here to shout out Pathalerix. He's the first person I've seen translating these OSRS Goldlock challenges to World of Warcraft, so thanks to him for inspiring this series. Okay, so on to the mailbox. So we've sold a few items. A skinning knife for 6 silver profit, stringy wolf meat is a reliable seller, copper bars and copper ore are both selling quickly and for about 15 to 30 silver a stack. Tiger's Eye is fluctuating, but we managed to sell a couple for 8 silver each. Light leather and ruined leather scraps, like I said earlier, they're selling quicker, but for very little. We're getting anywhere between 13 to 30 copper each, which isn't a huge amount, but it all adds up. Weak flux is sold for about 1.5 silver profit, so we'll make sure to always have a few of them posted. And we've also got a few miscellaneous items in there, so let's take all of this out of the mailbox and see where we end up. Okay, 3 gold, 84 silver, 77 copper. Okay, not a bad start. We're at about 5 hours /played, but I think now that we know what items sell and what don't, we can really start to up our gold per hour. I'm interested to know if there's any rules you think we should be adding to this challenge to make it more interesting. If so, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to read through them all. Right, now that we have a better idea of what items are selling well, I started to do some dedicated farming loops. I knew that copper bars, stringy wolf meat, cloth and green gear were all relatively lucrative, so I came up with a loop that covers all of these drops. In the western part of the zone, around Brunel Village and the Troll Hills, there are quite a few copper ore nodes, as well as packs of wolves in the centre of the lake and 2 hubs filled with trolls. These are humanoids that drop both green gear and linen cloth reliably. I did 1 hour of this loop and gathered around 60 copper ore, 20 linen cloth, 3 green gear items and a stack of stringy wolf meat, along with a few miscellaneous items. Because light leather was selling for so little, when I got back to Ironforge, I decided to drop skinning and pick up engineering. Rough stone was selling for about 10 copper a piece, but rough blasting powder, which can be made using only a single rough stone, is selling for 1 silver. In addition, the handful of copper bolts sell for around 5 to 6 silver compared to the 1.5 silver that the bars sell for. So, in theory, with these 2 items alone, I could transform the value of these materials from 96 silver to 3.6 gold for very little effort. That's a huge bonus to our income. I converted the items, posted everything on the auction house, and then went around for another loop. I was noticing that I could only really do a single loop of our farming route before we ran into a problem: bag space. Because we're a hunter, one whole bag slot is dedicated to our ammo pouch, and we've only got 6 slot bags, so our max inventory space is 34 slots. That's like 1 regular bag in retail. At the moment I'm just going to have to grin and bear it, but once we've got enough gold to spare, I think I'm going to drop the ammo pouch and upgrade to 8 slot bags, because the going back and forth to the auction house is really slowing us down here. With another loop done and our materials converted, I felt like going back to questing. We'd pretty much completed Dun Morogh at this point, but there were a handful of quests at the edge of the zone that were just within the borders of Dun Morogh. These are at the north and south gates that mark the border with Loch Madan. On the way there, I helped a ranch defend against a terrorising Yeti, mined a few ores, and then delivered some stout to the southern gate. I finally avenged a lost pilot at the northern gate, and with that, every available quest in Dun Morogh was completed. Once more I harked back to Ironforge, put the few items I'd gained on my outing to the auction house, and I went to bed. To combat the bag space problem, I realised I had to prioritise. From killing the trolls countless times, I'd managed to get most of their unique green drops. But the problem was, these wouldn't sell fast on the auction house, and having multiple of them wouldn't be much use. In addition, linen cloth had tanked to around 20 copper each, so I banked my cloth and any greens that were cheap, with the intention of one day re-speccing into tailoring and enchanting. And I set off to purely farm our most reliable seller, copper ore. The handful of copper bolts were selling like hotcakes for almost 6 silver apiece, so I set out to farm 100 copper ore. I banked everything but our mining pick and a hearthstone, and headed out into the wilderness and got to doing what dwarves do best, mining like my little life depended on it. It took me about an hour to get 101 copper ore, which also got me 67 rough stone and 1 malachite. I calculated if we converted all the ore to bolts and all the stone to blasting powder and sell them, then we'd be looking at around 6 gold in theoretical value. Now, not wanting to flood the market and crash the price, I've put these up a few stacks at a time and came back regularly to restock. Because trade goods don't sell as fast on Classic as they do on retail, it was going to take a while to convert these items into profit. So I brought a few trade goods to flip, purchased some limited recipes from the engineering vendor, and then, itching to hit that 25 gold goal, I decided to try out a couple of different farms. I didn't think there was much point doing more copper ore farming until our backlog of goods has sold, so I focused on getting a bigger diversity of items. We already know that humanoids drop a good selection of green items, and that if we're lucky, we can sell these for about 50 silver to 1 gold each, to the right seller. But there are other mobs that drop some unique and cool items. Of course I'm talking about rare mobs, and we have 6 of those in Dun Morogh. There's Timber, the wolf on the frozen lake, Great Father Arcticus, a troll at the far west of the map, Gibberwilt, a named leper gnome in Nomagunt, Eden the Howler, a yeti at the far end of the Yeti Cave, Bjarn, a white bear, and Hammerspine, a rare trog in the quarry mine. I set out to hunt each of these, and we got a few good drops along the way. Now first up is Timber. He has 2 unique drops, the silver-lined braces and the white wolf gloves. Timber is easy to access and is set along a good copper ore farming route, so I killed him whenever he was up. He was a tough enemy at first because he's always protected by at least 2 other wolves, but after picking them off one at a time, we killed him for the first time and got the silver-lined braces. which is a white item, so I don't think they'll sell for much, but every unique item's a bonus. Next, and not far from Timber, is Great Father Arcticus. He has the Royal Frostmane Girdle and the Frostmane Scepter. The Frostmane Scepter is a green item and has a lower drop rate, so we're going to have our fingers crossed for that one because I think that will sell. The white items don't tend to sell all that often as they'd only be used for their appearance, and their appearances are pretty basic, plus you can't transmog in Classic the way you can in Retail. On our first kill of him we got the Frostmane Girdle, but we're certainly going to be coming back to try for the Scepter. Now Gibberwilt drops the Foreman Vest and Pants, both green items, so he's one to watch out for, and on our first kill we got lucky and got the Foreman Pants. Eden the Howler was very hard to get to. He's right at the end of a very long cave, and both of his drops are common items, the Wendigo Fur Cloak and the Bloodstained Knife. We're going to get one kill on him just to see what we get, but I'm probably not going to farm him unless these items really sell well. We were level 13 when we went to kill Eden, so we powered through the cave. We got a few linen cloth drops in the process, and he dropped the cloak for us, which is another nice item to have stocked, but even at a higher level, reaching him took far too long for this to be worthwhile. Bjarn is another nice rare because he's out in the open. However, he only has one unique drop, the Black Bear Hide Vest, making him the least lucrative rare. He's not too far out of the way, and he mostly spawns within a good copper ore farming route, so like Timber, we'll kill him if we see him, but we're not going to go out hunting for him. Our first encounter with him, he didn't drop his unique item, but we did get a different green, the Infantry Leggings of the Bear, an item that low-level warriors and paladins would gladly buy while leveling, so it's a good drop that will probably sell for a healthy chunk of silver. Finally, Hammerspine. Now he has the ice-covered bracers and, more importantly, the Ice-Pain Warhammer, which has amazing damage for a level 7 weapon, and I'm sure that players will pay good money to get this for their paladin ults. Again, he's at the end of an enemy-filled cave, but this cave does have a lot of copper ore, so we'll stop in from time to time to farm him. On our first kill, we got the bracers, but unfortunately not the Warhammer. On one of our other farming loops, I actually encountered Great Father Arcticus again, and this time he dropped the Scepter for us. This is a great drop that looks like it's selling for a little under 2 gold, which is almost a tenth of what we need to unlock the next zone. So with that combination of rare items, copper bars, bolts, a selection of trade goods, all slowly selling, let's check back in with the mailbox. Straight away we can see that the copper bars are selling reliably, a few other items as we hoped, and that Frostmane Scepter has sold for the tidy sum of 1 gold and 68 silver. We'll definitely be going back to that troll cave to farm another. A few miscellaneous items and a handful of copper bolts, they sold for about 6 silver a piece. Got some trade goods selling here and there, more copper bolts, more bars, as well as an old blunderbuss selling for about 1 gold, which is crazy because I think I only paid something like 26 copper for it, so I'm going to have to get another one of them too. Some more copper bars. Another big ticket item is the Frostbit Staff. This drops from Rockjaw Bone Snappers, and to be honest I don't really remember this dropping because it's a white item, but it does have a pretty cool appearance for magic users, so I can understand why someone would want it. Let's open all that up, as well as the last 16 mails, and see where we stand. Okay, we're at 14 gold and 40 silver. Now, I had intended to end the episode there, but given that we're over halfway now, and we still have a lot of items on the auction house, I reckon we can do all of this in a single episode. This probably won't be possible in future episodes when we're having to farm much more gold, but for now, we might be able to do this in a single take. Plus, I had the perfect farming route planned. Run this loop around Brunel Village. killing the trolls on the hills and in the caves for green drops, farming the wolves for their meat, Gibblewilt, Timber and Great Father Arcticus for their unique drops, and mine some copper ore in between. We need 10 gold and 60 silver to complete our goal, so let's do this. I farmed this optimised route for exactly 1 hour, and I was so close to level 14 that I decided to level up in style by taking on this whole village of trolls at once. I was 5 levels higher than them, and I had a pet tank for me, and it went poorly. Now, although we're not playing on hardcore, I actually haven't died yet in this challenge, and I really didn't want to start now, so I ran like a coward, revived Bear, and tried again now that we'd killed one of them. This time it went a lot smoother and we leveled up in the middle of the fight, which gave us a nice heal all the way to full. So after all that and our hour of farming, here's what we got. 110 copper ore, 64 rough stone, 3 tiger's eye, 4 malachite, 40 linen cloth, 2 silver bars from opening chests, a selection of different gear items like the snowy robe, warrior's girdle and braces, infantry's braces, the frostman club and staff, and some silver-lined braces. I posted everything up on the auction house, and the value of my auctions is at... okay, well that's a little bit skewed by the snowy robe, which TSM is recommending we list at 495 gold. I know for a fact that won't sell, so we're looking at probably 65 gold in item value there. So if even a fifth of that sells, we'll have hit our goal. All that's left to do now is wait. Okay, it's the next day and the mailbox is looking very healthy. We've got quite a few gear items that have sold, as well as our trade goods, so let's open everything up one final time this episode and just hope that we've got enough. Okay, awesome, and there we have it. 25 gold without leaving Dun Morogh. It did take us about 12.5 hours of playtime, which actually isn't too bad going in Classic for a low level. I'm going to now send off this 25 gold to Tollmaster, and then we can spin the wheel for the next zone. I'm not going to do that spin now though. I'm going to do it live so you know it's all legit, and we'll start exploring some farms in that new zone straight away on the new live stream. So you can join us either on YouTube or on Twitch for the wheel spin and to see what new farms we unlock. For now, thanks for watching, go with peace friend.